G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here, and as you can see from behind me here, I have a new game. So I was looking for something a little bit different after playing a lot of Pathfinder. I still wanted something that was a bit fantasy and a bit RPG, but I also wanted something a bit survival and stuff like that. And I've played games like that before on my channel. So you may have seen me play Savage Lands, for example. Even what is it? Wayland, I think it is. Yeah, Wayward is a little bit like that, although that's very pixely. I wanted something first person, and I couldn't really find anything I liked. I actually played around with a couple of MMOs, Dungeons and Dragons Online, for example, and things like that. And just really couldn't settle on anything I wanted. Now, I've played, say, Ark Survival Evolved before, and quite enjoyed that, but I wanted something new and different. And then 7 Days to Die came on sale on Steam, and I decided to get it. Now, here's the interesting thing. I don't like the zombie genre. I think it's been ridiculously overdone. 30 years ago, zombies were new and interesting. These days, it's been done to death. But this is a good game. There is stuff that could be done to make it even better. Set it in a fantasy universe, change the zombies to different fantasy, enemy races. Still, you could still have the Blood Moon thing, which is some sort of, divine curse or something, and you have to go and find an artifact in a dungeon. You got to level up first and get to an appropriate level, and then do some dungeon and find an artifact and destroy it. And even the destruction process may be quite involved, and then you get rid of the curse, and there's no more blood moons that are affecting all of these evil creatures. There's lots of stuff that could be done to this game. So I've started playing it. I don't know how many hours I've got in it. Well, there you go. I've got about 60 hours in. And I've seen a few people playing this in videos online or on Twitch and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say I'm by any means an expert on the game, and I saw people playing some older versions. So you can see this is Alpha 18.2. In fact, when I got it the other day, it was 18.1, and there's been a minor change to where you start in the game since then. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing as a playstyle, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. In this video, I'm not going to dive in day one and go through. I was going to go through, go to this place that I like, and set up a base and show you all of that. But then I realized that to get through to the first Blood Moon is 7 hours worth of gameplay, and there's no way I could compress all of that into a single video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some ideas that I've had, and what have worked and what hasn't. I got no idea if these are original. They probably aren't, but we're going to do that. So first of all, when I'm playing the game, I've been playing in Navi's Easy Gain, or whatever it's called, game world. That's fine. I did generate another world, and it took like half an hour. I have been playing on Scavenger difficulty, I will admit it, and for me, I feel zombies should walk and not run, so I've set them all to walk. The reason for that, and I have normally left the Blood Moon to 7 days. Okay, that's what I've been playing on. I did play once without a Blood Moon just so I could get an idea, and that's the first base I'm going to show you. But I've got another base, which is the more advanced version, which has survived a Blood Moon. So that's that. I like to mark airdrops. That's fine. All of this stuff is nothing major as far as changes. But personally, I'm playing what I call the true Aussie playthrough. So first of all, zombies only walk, not run. That's down to, quite frankly, there are multiple ways that you can create a zombie. You've got the fantasy way in which you resurrect a dead body. You've got the various sort of modern themes on that from video games and TV and movies and stuff, in which the zombies are the result of some sort of infection, some sort of virus or bacteria or something that takes over the body. Now, it's unclear or not consistent in those as to whether the zombie is alive or dead. But quite frankly, it doesn't matter, because whether the body is alive or dead, the inference is that there is some sort of bacteria or virus or something that is either radically changing that person's behavior so that they become a zombie, or actually like a symbiote taking over and controlling that body and making it do something different. And personally, I can't see either way in which that zombie could gain, the virus, the bacteria, the parasite, the whatever, could gain enough control over a body to actually be that good that they could run it. It would be hard enough to work out if you were a parasitic thing and you connected to another host. It would be hard enough to work out how to make it breathe and live, let alone walk or then run. So, anyway, there's lots of stuff that you could debate about that. I've decided, until I get more conversant with the game anyway, the zombies walk and not run. The other thing that I'm doing is purely I might look at making a mod for this. We'll see. But the other thing is, coming from Australia, I have basically not zero access to guns, but I could not walk down my street. I live on a street which, ultimately it's not a main road. It's back from the main road a little bit, but it's a fairly long street. It's probably a couple of kilometres long if I was to start at one end and walk all the way along it. So there's, a couple of hundred houses along this street. And I don't live in the best suburb in the world, I will admit that. But I think I would be lucky to find a gun if I walked that entire street and checked in every single house. Right? But in these games, you can guarantee that pretty much every building either has a gun in it or ammunition in it. And so for me, that's not realistic. That's not the way. If right now where I live there was a zombie apocalypse, I couldn't rely on a gun at all. And then, so I'm not saying I'm not going to use guns in the game. Although if I was to build a mod, the mod would disable completely the machine guns and the submachine guns, because you just cannot get those in Australia. If you can, it's like, be prepared for months or years worth of paperwork and background checks and you name it, and then the weapon may be so disabled that it may be no different from a bolt-action rifle. Quite frankly, it's that strict, the laws here. So I don't see guns as being, they're not going to be easy to find in the game, but in these games also, I can craft ammunition in this game. And for me, that's not realistic, because yes, okay, I know people make their own ammunition. There are people who recycle everything. They recycle their brass, they melt that down, they cast new shell cases, they put new primers in, they pack it with new powder, and they cast their lead tips and they put those in. Yeah, sure, I know that there are people that do that for whatever reason. There are lots of reasons why people do that. But the thing is that my understanding, and I'm certainly not an expert, but my understanding is that the modern gunpowder that is in use in modern firearms is a chemical cocktail. It is not just the simple black powder of years gone by, of 200 years ago, sort of thing. The new smokeless powders are much more efficient, but they're also not easy to make. I don't believe it would be possible just by going around scavenging in the environment. You could actually make usable smokeless powder. You'd have to use black powder. And my understanding is, in some cases, black powder, I don't think you could make 7.62 rounds, usable 7.62 rounds for a AK-47, which is what they have in this game, out of black powder, because I don't believe the black powder has enough strength in the burn of it to actually properly cycle the automatic bolt of an AK-47. If you were willing, and I'm not even sure if it would work properly for some semi-automatic pistols either. If you were willing to convert these weapons into bolt action, then it would probably be workable, but also black powder, my understanding, again, not being an expert, but my understanding is black powder leaves a lot of residue, so you have to spend a lot more time cleaning and maintaining your weapons when you're using black powder over the smokeless powders that we use today. So my playthroughs, I am primarily using bows. The only time I will collect weapons, I will collect guns, but the only time I'm actually going to use them is during the Blood Moon, and I'm not going to make any new ammunition for any of the guns, except for the turrets, the junkyard turrets. And even then, they may only be the dart turrets and stuff like that. I might not make the shotgun turrets or anything like that. That's my idea is to play through like that. So I'm gonna show you right now. This is not my original playthrough, but this was my first big. Okay, this is my idea now. I know what I'm going to do. This is the playthrough. I know where I want to build. I know how I'm going to build it. This is what I want to do. So we'll come into the world. Twiddle our thumbs and wait for a minute while this all loads. Okay, so it's morning of day 17 here. This world doesn't have the Blood Moon turned on, so it's a little bit safer. Now, on the map, this game was started in 18.1, which is now 18.2. So in 18.1, you actually started just over here. And so that's really close to this, a nice little lake here. And I found this spot here, it's quite nice. So the sign is Ansel Adams River. You've got the bridge there. You've got all of these trees and this grassland over there. And there's this house down here. There's several buildings along the waterfront. Several buildings along the waterfront up here. So you've got a house here. You've got a dock here. And then another building here. There's an impromptu camp thing here, which had a great big bear around it at one point. There's a nice house here. On this side of the river, there's a nice big house here, and there's a couple of other things. Oh, I've got some zombies coming. I better take care of these guys. So that's that setup. Where are they going? I might just be able to leave them, actually. Oops, I sort of showed you the house. I didn't want to show you that yet. So my idea then, I've seen, as I said, I've seen some YouTubers play the game. I've seen some streamers play the game. This is almost like a mini horde coming through here. I'm going to run up. Maybe not. I've seen some people play the game, and some of them had interesting ideas for bases. One of them was to build the base up and have an area underneath it full of traps, and then you can shoot down through the floor at your opponents. And that definitely seems like a fairly good sort of option. So I built this base here. So it's built up above the ground. It's not that large as far as floor space goes. I think it's like 9 by 9 or 7 by 7, something like that. And I've started to cobblestone the legs because they're the most troublesome part of the build at the moment. That's the thing that they could attack the most and do the most damage to. But the interesting thing that I found, so I've got a few traps around, including these ones here. These are collapsible floor tiles, I think they're called, or something like that. So if they walk on those, they'll fall through down onto the spikes, which is quite nice. But what I've got here is my stairs coming up, and then I have my little trappity trap thing. And this really works better as a 3x2, not a 3x1. You can even do this as just a single tile here and leave gaps there, but they can actually jump over this. But what I've found is that if you have a block here with a ladder on it, and then this door here, they will treat that like a ladder and they will walk straight across it and they'll basically fall through. So this becomes like a little mini drawbridge, and I can keep it up like that. They won't close that down. They're not smart enough to do that. And this here is the better example. This is the one that works really well because it's 2 spaces. So there's no way that you can jump across that, right? Whereas that one space there, technically they could probably try and jump, although I think the open doors will stop them. So this does work. I mean, I have had this base attacked, but not with a Blood Moon Horde, right? So just, a whole bunch of these guys. I've had like 5 or 6 zombies at a time come up and try and get through this, and they just fall through there. And there are, as you can see, there are spikes down below that, so they fall through. They land on the spikes, and they get injured. But yes, they do then start to attack everything around there. If they destroy that level of block there, then there's absolutely no way they can walk straight across. They can jump, but they can't walk. And if they find that there's no easy way up anymore, if the AI detects that there's no easy way up, they'll just start trying to destroy everything. Thankfully, though, they don't. They just keep trying to go over this trap and keep falling down, which gives me plenty of opportunity to take them out. And I have had turrets sitting here to take them out. But this one here is the big defense, and it's really easy to come in and out. You just EE, you walk through, and then you EE again to open them back up. And they cannot get through that. That is essentially a drawbridge for them, and they will drop down. Now you have to place the ladders first. And I have experimented with placing the ladders on their side, not vertical, but sideways. I'm not sure if it really helps or not, but when they hit that ladder, then they do get shuffled to one side or the other. At least that's what I think I've seen so far. Whether that really works or not, I don't know. But definitely just a normal ladder like that, they'll hit it and they just drop through. They'll try and climb on it, but they can only climb up and down just a little bit, and then eventually they'll drop through and they'll fall. And that's not a distance that the fall will kill them, but if you've got traps down below that, they'll fall onto the traps and they'll get injured trying to get back up. So that's that. And then my base here is fairly simple. Now this was my first attempt at just a way to be able to attack them down under, and you can see, oh no, actually I didn't turn that ladder on its side. Maybe I did it with some of the other ones. No, I didn't. I thought I was going to turn some of the ladders on the side so that, that one is turned on its side, you see? So if I go in there, I don't fall through. But if I try and go up or down, it sort of works, but it also wants to try and push you to the side. So these are my ways to, at the moment, on this base, to shoot down towards my opponent. But of course, that's not really all that great. And I've put doors, no windows because you don't need them, and I've put doors here with just one little pedestal out so I can come out here and shoot if I need to. And I used to have a turret here. I still do. I don't know why that isn't shooting at people. It should be, because there's a whole bunch of zombies right there that it can shoot at. I've seen it shoot at zombies at that distance before. So maybe it's out of ammo. Let's have a look. 6. No, it's got plenty of ammo. It just, for whatever reason, didn't want to shoot. Maybe they're not quite close enough. I don't know. Anyway, so that was my first base. And the problem I had with it was I didn't like this here felt like a vulnerability. One way in. It also felt like I'm not that high off the ground, because I understand there is a heat map in the game, and that things like using the workbench, running a forge, running a campfire, those sorts of things generate heat. Why are you not shooting them? They're close enough. And generating heat attracts the zombies. So my concern was I wanted to go up higher, but I was concerned that if I went up higher, that this stair system that I've got would have to go out further and further. And it felt very cumbersome to have this like this. I'm not so sure now after building my second base. This is actually not too bad, and I'm not really that sure that making it any higher is much of an advantage, really. The only thing I would do with this is make this a 2 deep as well, so that there's 2 doors, just like I've got here, that you have to go through. But the fact of the matter is you only really need 1 of these. You don't need the 2 of them, because so far none of them have got past that. My idea for the second one was, in case I do believe there are some zombies which can just climb walls. And so my idea was that if they tried to climb up the side of this, for example, or the side of the stairs here and come up, then there was another set of drawbridges essentially right in front of my front door. So that was that's my initial base, and as I said, it works reasonably well. It has defended me against some zombies, not a full horde, but it has survived zombies. They really didn't do much damage to the stairs at all when they came through. They just kept falling through, and they wiped out most of my spike traps, and I had to redo all of them. And they didn't really do too much damage to the legs. Even though I'm building them up, they really didn't do that. So let's go and have a look at my other base. And I called this one my training base. Okay, so the first thing to notice about this base, or about this playthrough, is that the game started me all the way over here. And so I had to make my way, to be able to build my base in that same location, I had to make my way all the way over here to here. So it actually took me like 3 days of game time. I started here, you go and do this house here, and this little valley is fairly safe. So I cleaned out this area, built up a whole bunch of resources, came over, occupied, this is a little garage station, a little petrol fuel station. I occupied that for the night and built all that up. I actually then went to about here and then decided I'd come back here and occupy that one for the night. And then this one here, I made it all the way through to, I believe, this building here for the night. And then I went and got here and started building up my thing. And it took me a couple of days by the time I was here to build this base. Now, this base is a little bit different. So first of all, well, this door here is essentially, let me close this. So this door here is essentially the front door that we had before. We are much higher up off the ground, first of all. And the stairs wrap around the building. Now that little spot there is just a little spot that I can put a junk turret later if I need to. So we've got stairs going around, and we've got these sections here with the double trapdoors that act as our drawbridge. But the problem is to hold up, so these have the There's the little bit of ladder there. This one needs to have a ladder as well, so I had to put that block there with a ladder on it. And that just felt really... It felt like it... I wasn't sure if this block would stay up without putting another block there. But the fact that that block there had to be there meant that if that trap wasn't there, the zombies could walk from here to there, and they might from there be able to jump over to there, or maybe find some way up through there to those stairs. So I'm not sure I really like this design as much. It definitely works. I will say that. So this base has survived a zombie horde. Here's another zombie coming in now. The zombies would come up the stairs, they would get to here, they would start to fall through there, so they would move over to there and get caught on the trap. And those traps would then eventually be destroyed by them, so enough of them had been caught on it, and they would start to fall through here. Eventually, enough damage was done over here that that whole section of whatever fell down. Of that section of walkway started to fall down. Actually, it did fall down. And once that happened, well, then they recognise. See, there's the zombie jumping up on there, and he's dying. And if he doesn't die completely, he's going to fall through. Now he's up on the traps again, trying to get to me. And yeah, so he's dead now. But eventually those, particularly when they're made of wood, those are going to, eventually they're going to get broken to the point where that nothing's going to happen. So they would be bashing on these stairs and everything, and eventually that all fell down. Once that happened, they recognised that there was no way for them to get up, because that last section, it didn't affect me up here at all, but that last section was gone. So what did they then do? They started attacking the pillars. And that's when I pulled out the big guns and started shooting them down. I was using bows up until that point. So that little walkway thing does work really well to stop them getting all the way up. The thing is that you don't really need multiples of them, although it does feel like a safety net. Then what I built in here was what I had seen another YouTuber and Twitch streamer do, which was, these are wooden bars. You can, once I've got enough metal, I'll be replacing these with metal bars. But you can swivel them around so that rather than them being vertical in the wall, they are horizontal on the floor, and you put them in there, and you can walk on them, and then you can shoot through them perfectly acceptably. There is a slight bit of damage just there. They do occasionally get damaged, but they're easy to repair, and so you can shoot down at the zombies anywhere as they come up the walkway around the outside of the tower. Now, the other thing that I thought of doing is putting a outside wall all the way around that walkway, a full, complete, cobblestone or better wall all the way around it. It would take a lot of resources, and it would be just one more thing that they would attack. But the wall would add some structural integrity, so that at the moment, if they take out that pillar there should be enough structural integrity if they take out one pillar that the whole thing won't fall. But if they take out two, there is a good chance that something's going to happen. So I haven't actually tested this, and considering that this is sort of just my test run here, I guess it's probably worthwhile seeing what happens. And let's try this corner here. What happens if I take out one of these blocks? So we might just... once the Blood Moon had finished, I started building this ditch all the way around. Ultimately, I think this ditch would be better being too wide, because then they couldn't jump over it, because at the moment, I can technically jump over that even with that in the middle of it. Well, okay, I did take a little bit of damage because I misjudged it slightly, but, it's possible to jump over that. So by making that too wide, I could jump over that the zombies could jump over. They wouldn't be able to jump over if I made it too wide. And then the plan to stop them from coming in through this gap here is to build a walkway between traps. So much like I would do on a RimWorld build, where I would build a maze of walkways with traps in them, this would be build the outline of the maze with traps, and they won't recognize that it's a walkway, so they just plow straight through it and just set off all the traps and get injured. Eventually they will destroy a lot of them, and then they'll be able to come through in here unimpeded, but it's a start. Now what I would really love is to be able to have those blocks that I had in the other build, the ones that collapse when they walk on them, but to have those selectively set so that you can flick a switch somewhere and they don't collapse, and then you can turn it back on again and they do. So most of the time you leave it so they're not going to collapse, and then when the blood moon comes, you're upstairs, you turn it off, and they're set to then collapse. And that way you could set up a large field with traps underneath it and the walkways on top, and they just, as they walk through it, they just start setting off and falling into the traps, and it's just a large sort of area that you can do that. But I'm going to really quickly try and take out a chunk of this wall and see what happens. I'm going to stand around this way so that there's less stuff falling on me if it does happen, and I might speed up through this because this video has gone on long enough. But let's just do this quick little experiment before we're done. Okay, so we can see that part of that building fell down, or part of that pillar fell down, but the building itself is still standing. I suspect we could lose one more before we actually lost some floor up there. So enough of the building survives that one break that if they concentrated and took out one pillar during a blood moon, we would survive. But if they took out more than that, I don't think we would. It depends. If they took out like a little bit of that corner as well, opposite corners, I think you would be fine. But if they took out, say, that one and the middle, or two along this, like if this one went as well, I think you'd actually lose some of that there. It won't take long to find out. Let's just... And we still actually haven't lost any of the floor up there. That has managed to stay together, which is actually pretty amazing. I think part of it is the stair wrapping around it, and part of it is the fact that you've got this middle pillar here. So, yeah, even with that level of destruction during a blood moon, this base would survive. As I said, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the base being quite that high up. It also makes it hard to shoot down that distance at my opponents. So I'm going to start a playthrough, and I'm probably going to build my original base. Maybe just a block or two higher. And I'll be using the same bars on the floor as the way to shoot down at any opponents that are underneath, but most of the time I'll be standing in my front door shooting at people trying to come up the stairs. So yeah, thank you for joining me for this video on 7 Days to Die. I'm going to have at least a couple of more videos on this. I'm going to start a playthrough and probably show like a day at a time as I work my way from way out over there where you start over to here and build this up. I just like this spot. It's got good access to water. There's lots of trees around. There are some animals in the hills that you can go and hunt, although the ability to fish would be nice if that was possible in the game, but it really isn't without mods. I'm not even sure if there are mods that handle that. I can't remember. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a like and share it with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all of the new episodes, and I'll see you for the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.